Oh yeah. No, okay, I didn't think so. Yeah, I did it here. I did it. I'm rooting for himself.
Yeah, no.
I still have him here and there. Yeah, I hope so. I've heard they just moved to
Oh, okay, well, that's good.
Yeah. How are you?
Good.
Yeah. I run the
Okay, good. I like to hear that. Brainwashing. I got a flyer. Look at how
Yeah.
All right, everyone, if you could start working into your seats, we're going to get the program started. I know we have a few people at the door. If we could get you guys sat down, that'd be great. How's the audio? Good. I got you back in the head now. You calmed up. Well, good morning, everyone. My name's Neil Collins, and I'm your humble CEO here. We have a great program for you today, and I really appreciate you coming this morning and making the time. Can you all hear me okay? James, can you hear me back there? Okay. All right, perfect. So we got a great program for you today. We're going to start off with one of my favorite things. We're going to honor some of our long-tenured members up here. We have quite a group that we're going to honor. Then we're going to follow up with some with our NAR and CAR directors. They're going to give you some updates of what's happening at the state and national level. We're going to come in with our chairman of MLS, Quincy Virgilio, a former president here of SCORE, and he's going to kind of give you an update of what's happening with MLS listings. As you know, they have a new update on their platform, so we can kind of touch where we are with that. And then lastly, we have the whirlwind. Carol Rodoni is going to bring it home for us. And so I hope you all brought either your iPad or a notepad today, because you're going to get a tremendous amount of information. It's going to be a special event. And it's my special pleasure to introduce one last time your 2014 president, Mr. Mike.
Thank you. Thank you. And welcome, everybody. It's good to see everybody out here on a nice, bright, early morning. A little bit of rain, but that's not bad. We need that. You know, November is a month where, as a country, we sort of celebrate and acknowledge those veterans of ours that are out there working on the front lines and keeping us safe here at home, and an opportunity to thank those that have really done that sacrifice for us. So today, to start, I'd like to have my little buddy, who's a Marine, a former Marine, lead us in our Pledge of Allegiance. And I actually surprised him on this. He didn't know I was going to ask him to do that, but those Marines, you know, they're ready at all costs to do anything, so they're ready.
So no speech, just a salute. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. Mike was down a little low. I'd first like to start out by acknowledging our sponsors that really make a lot of these events that we do very possible for us, and the ability to provide great little goodies for us to snack on while you get to listen to all of us talk. And some of our corporate sponsors are Off Price Carpet, Anthony Ventura, great attorney. Hopefully you never need one, but if you do, he's very, very good. Bank of America, Commission Express, when you just can't wait that 45 days, Chase, and MLS Listings, Inc., Umpqua Bank, and Wells Fargo. And then our media sponsors are KSFO, Mercury News, and University Productions. A couple things coming up. We have our annual toy drive and holiday celebration. That's coming up here in December, on December 4th. The good news is you'll all have a little extra money to buy an extra gift, because we're going to do it in Santa Clara, and there's no cost for parking. So, you know, the extra $12 that you would have spent on parking in San Jose, we can buy a little extra gift for some kids over there, make it a special day for them. And that's on December 4th from 3 to 5 p.m. This is a free event to all of our members. It's going to be a nice event, nice hors d'oeuvres, food, drink, that kind of stuff. We're going to have a good time, and we're going to get a lot of toys for some foster kids that really, otherwise, without our help, probably wouldn't have much of a Christmas to really be celebrating. The other thing we have is our store. In our tradition that we started on all of our big days like this, we have specials. So there's a little display back here for the SCORE store. If you need to pick something up for your business, we got a special on some lock boxes and the Barclay maps. For those of us who used to use those all the time and paid $100 and some odd for them, we got those for $20 now. So, anyway, so there's some good specials for you, and take advantage of those today. The other thing we get to do once a year is we get to, as realtors, get to choose and pick our Realtor of the Year and our Affiliate of the Year. So we have some of the nomination forms there back at the back table. You can also pull them up online, but this is the time of year when if you know somebody that's kind of gone above and beyond and is kind of doing things that we really should be looking at to acknowledge, fill it out, send it in. We will look at that, and we will. It's oftentimes very difficult for us to pick. There's so many great entries that get submitted. So, but it's a real honor to have both of those acknowledgments by this association. So make sure you do that. And the other thing we have is there's a call for action that's out there. Some of you may have already responded to it. It's a national call for action, and it deals with the, I wrote it down here, Mortgage Debt Relief Act. And what we need to do is let our congressmen and senators know that this mortgage debt relief is still a very necessary tool in the world of real estate. So two things. For those of you that registered to come here today, Anil has sent out an email to you. If you want to respond to that email, you just click the link. It'll take you right to the spot. It's like 2 clicks, and you'll have answered the call for action. And those call for actions make a difference to those congressmen and senators. They track them by numbers. When we go back to D.C. and we hear what they have to say, when they get flooded with stuff, they know it's a hot issue, and they pay a lot more attention to it than if nobody says anything, then they don't care, and then they vote without reading things. So at least if we can get them to read stuff before they vote for it, that might be good for all of us. So so answer that call for action. The other thing you could do is you can go right to those to the thing up there, right from your smartphones. Type into there, 1 click, and you will be answering the call for action. So we've made it real easy. There's really no reason why we shouldn't be 100% on the call for action. This really affects our livelihood, our way of business, and it's what we as a lobbying group have as the biggest force for every congressman and senator out there. They listen to us, and they'll listen to you if you respond to those. So take a moment and do that. Let's see, next thing I get to do, is we have our NAR 2014 NAR Emeritus Award. And we have a couple of people here that have reached that. And this is for someone who has served for 40 years with the National Association of Realtors. And they get their NAR and their SCORE dues waived now for the rest of their, so they get a discount. And 2 people that we have are 2 what I like to say are very good dear friends of mine. The first one is I'm sorry, wrong person. No, Steve Hanley was on here, but he's not here. Carl San Miguel, come on up. And Antoinette Lorenzano. Oh, one more who showed up. Oh, and then my very first broker in the business, Antonio Avalar.
There you go. There's a little pin there too. All right, thank you. Congratulations, guys.
The next distinguished awards that we have here are our 2014 CAR Honorary Members for Life. So these are people that have had and served a minimum of 25 years with the California Association of Realtors. And well, we won't, they have a minimum age, but they look like they're 40, but it's a little more. And their CAR and SCORE dues are also waived for life from this point on. And the ones we have, some great names here. Wanda Buck, I think she's here. Chris Cavallaro. Marciano Estocco. Ray Peralta. Johnny Rennell. Helen Suklis. And Frederick Wassam.
Man, they're really
Let's give them all a round of applause.
I gotta wait for Frederick.
Oh, Frederick, okay. These are the new 40. Like a take a picture. Yeah.
Good job.
Thank you.
Good job. Good job, everyone.
Neil.
Good job. Good job.
Yeah, so these are.
Okay, and this is a fun one that we started, and that's acknowledging our members that have been with our association for 25 or plus years. So Robert Jamello and Ray Peralta and Wanda Floor, 25 years with Santa Clara County Association of Realtors. It might be a little more or less. We're trying to catch up, but in a couple years we'll have them all right on the years. But
There you go. Great. One more time. Thank you all for the support. Thank you for all.
good stuff.
Yeah.
And now we have some members that have been with us for 40 years, and Tony Avalar and Antoinette Lorenzano. Oh, come on in for a picture. Can't get away that quick.
This person threw me off there. All right. Thank you for all the support. Thank you guys for coming. I really appreciate it.
Let's give all those people a hand. That's a great job and a good accomplishment. So now what we're going to do is we're going to move into our CAR updates. We just came back from CAR a little over a month ago, and shortly after that we'll go into a NAR update with Dave Walsh, but I'm looking for Barbara. She's here somewhere. I know I saw her. Mallory's going first? Okay, sorry. So we're going to do Mallory. Mallory's going to give, CAR Government Affairs. Yes, we're going to have Mallory come on up, and she's going to go over our government affairs for CAR and some of the hot issues that we're dealing with there. Thank you. Thank you, Mallory.
Oh, is it gonna switch over?
Oh,
Sorry.
which button? The down button? No, there it goes.
Just a delay.
That's okay.
All right, just sit there.
Yeah, we'll get that over here. We'll get that fixed and get you going.
Good. Good morning. All right. Simmer down. No, I'm just kidding. So I am here from CAR to provide a state legislative update. I am your government affairs field representative. So I work under the lobbyists in our Sacramento office and serve as your liaison, letting you know what's going on in Sacramento and with various pieces of legislation at the state level. So I don't have much time, so I'm going to give you the speedy overview of how we fared this year. So each year there's about 4,000 to 5,000 bills that are introduced in Sacramento. Your lawmakers love to make laws. We don't always like them, so CAR is monitoring those bills that are introduced. Of those 4,000 to 5,000 bills that are introduced, about 1,500 impact the real estate industry. For those of you that aren't aware, CAR only takes positions on bills that are real estate related. So we will either support, oppose, or remain neutral and sort of watch a bill that is real estate related. So we also sponsor pieces of legislation. So a local issue will arise through CAR's policy committee process, be approved by the board of directors. We will then draft legal language, seek a bill author, and find a bill number, and those sponsored bills move throughout the process. This year, 7 out of 9 of our bills that we sponsored passed. So it was a really great year. I've only been here. Round of applause for our lobbyists. So I've only been here since last November, actually, but I've heard it's been one of the more successful years we've ever had. So a couple other wins for industry, I like to call them. Who recalls the bill, Senate Bill 391? This was the $75 recording tax on all documents, real estate documents that are not part of a sales transaction. Everyone remember that bill? So this is actually a 2013 bill that sort of rolled over into 2014. And we were heavily opposing this bill. How many of you were able to attend Legislative Day this year? A few of you. You remember the folders that CAR gave you. Within those folders, there's a hot pink piece of paper that said hot issue. The first hot issue was SB 391, and your first priority when you flooded the Capitol and talked to your legislators was to ask your legislator to vote no on SB 391. So on Legislative Day, when 3,200 realtors went into their legislators' offices and asked them to vote no on SB 391, they took notice. The very next day, the author of the bill, Senator DeSaulnier, pulled back. So that bill died, and we defeated it, and it was all thanks to our realtor members. So give yourselves a round of applause. So this is a perfect example of how you guys getting involved as our members makes a difference. You may not think, you know, if I don't attend Legislative Day, it may not make too much of a difference, but as a whole, you guys really represent your industry. And if a legislator isn't familiar with the issues you face as a small business person, you know, you not attending isn't really going to educate them. So I encourage you to attend Legislative Day this year. It's April 22nd. Another bill we defeated was AB 2416. How many of you saw the red alert on this bill? This was the wage liens bill. So this would have authorized an employee to record a new kind of lien for unpaid wages against their employer's real or personal property, essentially clouding title and circumventing due process. How many of you are listing right now undergoing some sort of work, whether that be painting, any kind of construction or renovation? Probably a few of you. So if one of these individuals, perhaps a subcontractor, didn't get paid by their contractors, they could take out a lien on this property, delaying your closing process and clouding title, creating a big mess. This was a huge issue for us. We sent out the red alert within the last 2 weeks of session, and over 1,874 calls were made. So we targeted 6 senators. I don't believe your senator was targeted if you live in this district that the association is in, but Silvar, Senator Jerry Hill, was one of our hot targets. So we made calls to these 6 senators, and they all voted no on this bill. So at 3 in the morning, the Friday of Labor Day weekend, our lobbyists were waiting to see what happened, and the Senate was unable to garner enough votes to move the bill forward. So it died on the last day of session, literally in the 11th hour. So give yourselves a round of applause. That was a direct result of your efforts and your phone calls. So we actually have data, measurable data, that shows what percentage of legislators voted no and how many calls were made to that office. So 100+ calls, 80% of the senators targeted voted no. So you always wonder, you know, what's that vote going to do? What's me attending Legislative Day going to do? What's that call going to do? Well, it does make a difference. It could be the difference between them voting yes and them voting no. Maybe their threshold was 100 calls. So you never know. I always encourage you to get involved. Did everyone see the basket full of cards up front? Did you drop your card in? For those of you that didn't drop your card in, be sure to drop maybe we can circulate the basket. I'll go grab it. Yeah, okay, great, thanks. So by putting your card in this basket, I'm gonna sign you up for the Legislative Liaison Program, where you'll receive a political update on these hot issues. You'll also receive our red alerts before anyone else, and all of the information that I'm discussing will be included in those updates. These begin when the session starts, so that's about January. I'm also doing a Starbucks drawing, so I'll pick a card out and you get a little gift card to Starbucks for you or for your client. So I can't run through all of these, but if anyone has particular interest in any of these bills, please come see me after the meeting, and I'd be happy to forward you a full bill summary. But these are the 7 sponsored bills that passed. It's a big, long list, so although I don't have time to run through them, there was some bills dealing with squatters, which isn't an issue in this area, but is in the East Bay, Richmond, Northern California, clarifying the regulation and advertising rules in regards to team names. We've had a lot of questions about this, and if anyone has particular interest, again, come see me, and a few others. So on the horizon, we foresee the same threats arising at the state level. These are parcel taxes, split roll tax, private transfer tax, recording tax, service tax, and, you know, fighting to preserve the mortgage interest deduction. So the same issues sort of pop up. We are always looking out for these issues, and we'll fight them tooth and nail to make sure these threats don't become a reality. So we need you to get involved. I've already talked about the red alerts, but there's 6 other ways for you to be what we like to call a super realtor. This is sort of the theme we're going with this year. We all wore capes at Expo. For those of you who saw me, I apologize. So here are the 6 simple ways for you to take action today. Signing up for the Ledge Liaison program. You don't have to do anything except drop your card in that basket. I will take care of it all for you. If you are a broker, we ask you to take a step further to get involved by signing up for our broker involvement program. So brokers, most likely your agents respond to your emails more than they respond to CARs. So we contact our brokers and forward you a red alert. That could be once or twice a year. Last year was only once a year. And we ask you to contact your agents asking them to respond to the red alert. Again, responding to the red alert, AB 2416, 1,874 calls. That was our mobilization efforts. We only had 1 this year, and all of our members really paid attention and took action in those areas, which is great to see. Attending Legislative Day. It's a little earlier this year. As I mentioned, it's April 22nd. And again, going back to SB 391, you showing up and asking them to vote no on a bill that's bad for our industry or support a bill that's good for our industry does make a difference. Supporting the Realtor Action Fund, and registering to vote and voting on election day. This year, the primary election in June had a turnout rate of 24%. Typically, the general election is about double that rate. The general election turnout was 30%. So that's why you kind of saw an interesting, I'm not saying positive or negative, but just an interesting shift in what happened at the state and federal level because there was very low voter turnout. So it's always a good idea to stay up to date on who's running the local elections. These are the people pushing forward point of sale mandates and these local issues that really affects the real estate process. So pay attention to those elections, register to vote, and remember to vote on election day. I'll take any questions. I know we're short on time, so if you have a particular situation, see me after me. Yeah.
What's your last name, Mallory?
Spilker, and I will put my contact information up. It's Spilker.
Thank you.
There you go. So first name, last name, cell phone number, email. If you have questions, feel free to shoot me an email, give me a call on my cell. And I also wanted to put our legal hotline number up on the board because a lot of people don't use this resource, and it's a great tool for our members. So write that number down. If you have questions about the team names bill especially, I would direct you to call the legal hotline because a lot of it's situational and particulars that I can't answer. I don't have I'm not a lawyer shirt on today, but I should be wearing it probably every time I give this presentation. With that, any other questions? All right, and then be sure to drop your card in and I'll do a drawing. Thank you.
Thank you, Mallory. Now we know why the call for actions are important. They really do work, and it really is up to us to step up and make that happen when it's time to do those. So next, I'm going to bring up Barbara, one of our past presidents, and it's all yours. Thanks, Barbara.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. Good morning. I'm going to elaborate a touch on a couple things that Mallory said, but I also wanted to mention that every year there are about 25 or 30 SCORE members that become your representatives to the state. And that group of people go up 3 times a year. They leave their businesses, they leave their family, they leave all of their commitments here, and they go up and they spend a week at the CAR meetings. And what are the 2 general thrusts of those meetings? First, legislative. As Mallory was talking about, CAR is really a lobbying body for your benefit and for the benefit of your clients so that homeownership rights are protected. And the second area that CAR really focuses on and has begun to focus on even more is professionalism and ethics in the industry. And so your representatives go, and there's quite a number of discussions on how the industry can improve, how we can all be more professional. And so those people really are, and it's one of the best things I think that your association does for you is to have a group of people that are that committed and that experienced and knowledgeable to bring back information. And so my report today is sort of a compilation of what all of those people send in after the meetings. So first, there has been at CAR an energy efficiency task force because all over the state, there are a number of attempts to get point of sale energy updates mandated into the transaction. And CAR has been opposed to this from the beginning. And so they finally formed a task force, and the task force presented their final update at the meeting in October. And I just wanted you to know a couple of the points that were in the report. And the task force recommended that CAR adopt this position, and eventually there probably will be some legislation that comes out of this position. But for now, the task force recommended that CAR oppose any proposal seeking to mandate the sharing of utility bill information at point of sale. So when there's a sale, your clients will not have to show their utility bills or prove any kind of energy efficiency whatsoever. Number two, oppose any proposals that would start a clock at point of sale for an audit or retrofits, mandatory retrofits. Oppose any proposals to mandate smart meter reports at point of sale, and to support the inclusion of standardized disclosure language in the transfer disclosure statement as an alternative to any point of sale mandate. So eventually the Standard Forms Advisory Committee at CAR will be including language in the TDS that your clients have to fill out and sign that will indicate certain things about energy retrofits and upgrades. So disclosing those in the standard practice of real estate transfers from one owner to the next. Next, let me find this. There is a group of trustees at CAR called the Legal Action Fund Trustees, and they review cases that have significant impact on your ability to do business. And I wanted to report on one of those cases, which I thought was probably the most important to our business at this point. And this is Horicki versus Coldwell Banker. Somebody knows about this already, obviously. The California Supreme Court accepted hearing a case on the issue of when the buyer and the seller are each independently represented by a different salesperson, but from the same brokerage firm, to decide whether each salesperson is the fiduciary of both buyer and seller, with the duties to provide undivided loyalty, confidentially, and counseling to both their own client and to the other side. So that has been accepted by the Supreme Court as a case that they're going to hear, and there's no decision on it yet, but that's coming. I know all of you are aware that there's a new RPA, but there are many other new forms as well. There are 13 new forms and 27 revised forms that are coming out on the November 24th. And there are 8 forms that are going to be discontinued. There is lots of information available to you. If you haven't taken a class on the new forms, if you want more information, there are webinars on the CAR site. There's a forms tutor through Zip Forms, and you can also call for information if you need to. But don't delay on that, because the next time you write a contract, or the next time you get a contract, or the next time you have to fill out disclosure forms, you're going to find that there is a tremendous amount of new information. The Transaction and Regulatory Committee is the committee that deals with not only some legislation, but also things that concern you as brokers, for the brokers in the room. And I wanted to give you a couple of the decisions by that committee, which were affirmed by the directors at the meeting. CAR sponsor legislation to earmark 3 hours of a broker's required 45 hours of continuing education for a course on broker supervision. because what we found is that a number of brokers don't have enough experience or enough knowledge in supervising agents, partly because they may get into the business without having a huge amount of experience themselves, partly because they may not have taken a lot of courses in supervision of any kind. And so CAR is going to sponsor legislation, not just suggest, but actually sponsor legislation that become a requirement. There was a report that CAR staff is going to contact the governor's office to see if there's any viability in sponsoring legislation to reorganize the state government to create a new housing agency, which would be under the Secretary of Housing. So it would be actually a separate agency in and of itself. And I don't know what the outcome of that is, but I think they're probably going to pursue that. And then finally, the Transaction and Regulatory Committee is recommending that the Forms Advisory Committee consider including in the contracts or in the disclosures a checkbox that would disclose whether an inspector maintains membership in a recognized home inspector trade association. Because many of them do, but some don't. Many of them have enough E&O insurance, some of them don't. If they belong to a state trade association, they have to carry a certain amount of E&O insurance, and that probably would be a good thing for both buyer and seller to be aware of. Then I wanted to give you a couple things that came out of the Risk Management Committee, because these are items that really do affect what you're doing in your daily practice and things to be aware of. Regarding record retention, there was a huge debate on whether or not you, as brokers and salespeople, needed to keep records of electronic communication. If there was a text, if there was a tweet, if there was a posting of any kind online, there was an attempt by the Bureau of Real Estate to require that you make copies of all of those and keep them in your file, which would have been a real burden. So the upshot of all of that has finally come out effective January 1st. The listing broker shall retain for 3 years copies of all listings, deposit receipts, canceled checks, trust records, and other documents executed by him or her or obtained by him or her in connection with any transaction. An electronic message that is not designed to be retained or to create a permanent record, including texts, instant messaging, tweets, etc., are not going to be required. So you don't have to worry about those. But I would suggest that if you are texting something really important between yourself and a client or between yourself and another realtor, that you print them out and keep them. Regarding team names, which Mallory mentioned, there's a number of requirements now for team names. Some of the most important are that the team name has to actually be a name. You can't be the Silicon Valley team. You have to be the Joe Brown Silicon Valley team. Number 2, the broker's name has to be displayed on any of your advertising along with the team name. The broker's name has to be in a font that's as big as the team name. Any marketing that you do out there has to conform to these regulations. Did you have a question?
Yeah, does that team name have to be registered at some stage?
Yes, the team name absolutely has to be registered as a DBA. And you have to obtain permission from your broker to register that team name as a DBA. So those are just a couple of the things. You can't use, if you're using the term associates, if you're using the term group, you still have to have an actual name as the team name. And the identifying information must be conspicuous. So what's been happening is that buyers and sellers out there who simply see a sign or see a billboard or see something on a marketing piece really don't always have a way of knowing who the team is. So that's why this is, and now this is a requirement as of January 1st. So if any of you belong to teams, you may need to think about changing your marketing. Regarding licensing and citizenship or immigration status, this is effective January 1st of 2016. There is a bill that would prohibit anyone or any entity from denying licensure to an applicant based on his or her citizenship status or immigration status. But there's also a bill, AB 2396, that is effective January 1st of 2015. This bill would prohibit any board within the Department of Consumer Affairs from denying conviction for criminal activity that has been dismissed. So a license can now be granted to anyone that may have certain kinds of convictions on their records if the convictions have been dismissed. Regarding water use, you know we're all in a drought and it's getting worse. This was effective in July of this year, but some of you may not be aware of it. If the governor declares a state of emergency due to the drought, an HOA cannot impose a fine to the homeowner for not watering their lawn or their plants. I mean, I think that's important, because if your HOA is levying fines for not watering, you need to know that that is not legal. But if the water is recycled, if your HOA has recycled water, then the HOA can impose a fine for not watering. So tell your clients to be careful, your condo and townhome clients. Okay, just a couple other things. I don't know, yes, did you have a question?
How about when there's the agents or investors and they rent property? Because I'm starting to come in contact with lots of renters that are now being charged an increase by the landlord because the landscaping is getting dried out.
Is this single family?
Yes.
Well, I'm not sure what to tell you about that, because single family is a different entity than anything with an HOA. That, I mean, you may have to check with some agency at the city or the county. I don't know if any of you know regarding on January 1st, 2015, there will need to be an agency disclosure for commercial and vacant land and residential 1 to 4. Right now, it's only residential 1 to 4. But now, any commercial activity, any land activity, any transaction at all will require an agency disclosure. And finally, there is an existing law that excludes through 2015-16 classification for an active solar energy system. If you're installing an active solar energy system, there's an exclusion from property tax for that system. So that was going to sunset in 2015, and that's now been extended to 2017. So if you have clients that are considering putting in solar systems, this would be a good time to do it. Don't wait. Lastly, the CAR every year decides what they're going to spend their budget on. And for next year, for 2015, they've allocated a grand amount of money to marketing and advertising the value of the realtor. And so you'll begin to see an entirely new advertising campaign coming, one that elaborates on the current campaign, which is that the realtor is in the center of the transaction and everything ripples out, including new jobs, including all the services that a homeowner needs, et cetera, et cetera. But the new campaign is going to be even broader and fuller, and I think you're going to like it. And so keep your eyes out, because they're going to start coming out on local television channels in 2015, probably early. CAR did a huge media buy so that we are going to be appearing on all of the great channels like the Home and Garden TV and NBC and a lot of network stations, not cable, network. So I think you'll be pleased. It certainly is something that CAR is trying to do to help you in your businesses. And that concludes my report. Thank you.
Thank you, Barbara. That was a great job of taking a week's worth of meetings into about 20 minutes, so we appreciate that. A couple of things, a couple people have just come in that are also our 2014 Emeritus that we missed a little earlier, so we're going to bring up a friend of mine, Steve Hanley, and Louis Soswich, and Soswich is also 40 years with SCORE as well. And then our 2014 CR honorary member for life, Gerald Burnett, is also here.
Thanks, Mark. All right. Look at the camera.
After 40 years, you can get away with it. Get away with more than that.
And then the winner of the drawing for CAR from Mallory is APR member Richard Adami, is that right? Did I say that right? Right here. You win something. It's a nice little gift card for Barbara. There you go. Fantastic. Thank you. Okay, next I'm going to bring up Carl Lee, and he's going to give us our NAR update. We just got back from New Orleans, and aside from gaining 10 pounds in that place, a lot of good information for you. Here you go. Thanks.
Okay. I'm going to try to beat Barbara's record and give you a 5-day meeting report in about 5 days. So Myron, if you can give me a 1-minute warning when I get close to 5 minutes. Trying to get us back on schedule. There's a lot of information today. To start, I want to recognize Carl San Miguel, in case you don't already know who he is. He's already stand up a few times. He's one of our other NAR directors, along with Dave Walsh. He had a conflict. He was actually going to give the report today. So real quickly, how many of you have heard of Move Inc. or News Corp, or the merger between News Corp and Move Inc.? Okay. So just to give you a quick update, we had, and I'm going to look to Carl if I missed up on any of this information, because he was throwing me a bunch of information earlier. I think it was Robert Thompson is the CEO for News Corp. We had a I guess a satellite interview with Robert Thompson at the NAR meeting. News Corp, for those of you that don't know, News Corp purchased Move approximately about a month ago. I think about this week it's supposed to be official. It's still got some final stuff to go through. And the importance to us is Move Inc. operates Realtor.com. So Realtor.com, NAR has always had a huge investment into Realtor.com. So that's the significance of that. To give you some insights into what that might mean to us, first of all, I believe News Corp is about an $8.7 billion entity. Zillow, and I believe, I'm looking at Carol because she knows all these facts. Zillow is approximately pre-merger, because they've announced their merger with Trulia, and Mr. Thompson actually referred to the new company as Zit. So they pre-merger, Zillow is a $1 billion company. They pay. They've never been profitable either one. Right, so they haven't been profitable. And then to give you a little more background on News Corp, they own the Wall Street Journal, yep, New York Times, Disney, I believe, and Comcast. They don't own Disney. Sorry, Carl, you're wrong.
But Mr. Murdoch has more money than God.
Did you guys hear that? Carol said, Mr. Murdoch has more money than God. So,
He owns what he wants.
yeah. So what does it really mean to us? What Mr. Thompson said in his interview was they plan to continue to keep realtors at the center of the transaction. They actually look at this as a benefit to them because they can marry their resources, all of their media outlets, along with, and that's content. That's part of the equation to make Realtor.com a more viable competitor and hopefully put us back in the #1 position. So that's, in short, what this merger is going to mean to us. Now, I'm going to break down, similar to Barbara, I'm going to break down the meetings into 3 areas, and I'll explain that in a second, from our chief economist at NAR, and that's Dr. Lawrence Yun. And secondly, give you one key information along the lines of what Barbara was talking about in terms of raising our professionalism that passed through the board. And then the last piece is an overview of some of our legislative stuff. So the economic forecast, I'm going to qualify this as a national perspective. I'm going to give you a scattergun number of information and projections that Dr. Yoon gave. When Carol gives her presentation, and I've seen Carol's in some of you, many of you have, she's going to focus more local because a lot of the national information may be interesting, but may not be as relevant to us locally. And then also to kind of give you the depth of what this all means. So first thing here, kind of a confidence survey. 70% of firms that were surveyed expect an increase in business over the next 12 months. This is real estate firms, obviously. Consumer confidence is up. Realtor confidence is down, although it's up in California. Builder confidence is up, but single-family home starts are half of what's normal historically, and multi-family home starts are about normal historically. So there's not enough starts in terms of what historically we would expect to see. Pending index, so this is transactions or property in contract, is making a turn upward. It's down from a year ago, but we're going sideways in terms of the last few months. But if you add existing homes pendings and new home pendings, we're a little short of where we are in 2013. So we're kind of behind the trend there. This I thought was interesting, and it should not be news to those of us in the business. Based on the Federal Reserve survey of net worth households, renter households, their net worth is about $5,500. But if you look at ownership households, and you have to put it in context in Silicon Valley, this is national, is $195,500. So there's a huge difference between ownership, obviously, because real estate is a huge part of our net worth. The renter population is increasing, and obviously home ownership rate is decreasing. Renters face higher housing costs as rents continue to rise, and we're definitely seeing that here locally. First-time buyers represent less than 30% of all buyers over the past 18 months. And then 18.1% of wage earners live with their parents as we're coming out of the Great Recession. And what's interesting to note is 75% of Gen Ys believe homeownership is still an important long-term goal. So it's kind of a financial economic impact is what it looks like to me. Not so much that's what they think as much. And one of the things that Dr. Yoon noted is that we need to have government open up the credit box. We need to make things more affordable from a financing standpoint. Gross domestic product, GDP, is at or below 3% for the past 9 years, which is historically low growth rate in terms of GDP. And then for those of you that track interest rates, what are the interest rates right now?
2, 3, 4, 10 years ago.
I'm sorry, Carol?
2, 3 on a 10-year.
2, 3 on a 10-year. How about on a 30-year fix?
Oh, way down 1, 5.
4. So the what Dr. Yoon is projecting, I lost my place on my notes, sorry. So he's expecting the Fed funds rate to go up in the first half of 2015, and he's projecting 4.9% interest rate by the end of 2015, and 6% by 2016, or the end of 2016. Consumer Price Index, CPI, which is our cost of living adjustment, he's projecting 1.7% in 2015, and he's also expecting rents to rise at a 3% annual rate. Again, national numbers. Inventory is rising moderately, and obviously, and we see that shadow inventory is decreasing. We're not seeing as many as shadow inventory, which in their calculation, and there's different definitions of shadow inventory. For NAR, it does include looking at the number of homes that are in default. So he's projecting for what may happen to them. Future population, actually, let me make one more note. Household net worth is an all-time high, but only 10% of the households are really experiencing this. So it's sort of a divide between the haves and the have-nots, a little deeper divide. In terms of future population, so as you look at your business going forward, number of people that might be buying houses, we have a fall in birth rates. So families are smaller, people are deferring having kids later in their life than what we've seen historically. However, he made a note that legal, and we're talking about legal, not illegal, legal immigration, the trends he's seeing is it's going to result in Mexico and Latin America being the next China in terms of economic boom and investment in real estate, U.S. real estate. Okay. And so the other thing I'll mention in terms of the economic part of it is he does project national median price growth at 4% next year. And then real quickly, Barbara talked about professionalism. One of the big discussions that we had at NAR last week, I guess it was last week, was that we approved the concept, an aspirational concept of a code of excellence. And there's a number of things that's going to be worked out. The details are worked out. This is really a concept approval. So the details of what that's going to mean to us as a member standpoint is still to come probably in our May meeting next year. But some of the things to kind of keep in mind. One detail they did pass is right now you have to take Code of Ethics education every 4 years as a Realtor member. So they're going to add to that education the Code of Excellence, and some of the details again will be worked out, and they're going to shorten that education to every 2 years. So we're going to be required to take that every 2 years, but it won't come into place until the current 4-year cycle ends, which ends in 2016. So after that, we'll be required to take education in terms of Code of Ethics and Code of Excellence every 2 years. Some of the concepts that they talked about in this Code of Excellence is a understanding of advocacy for property rights. Community building by being visibly active in building inclusive, safe, and environmentally sound and prosperous communities. A lot of this is kind of very high-level conceptual aspirational words, so the details will be worked out. Because what they want to do here is that as realtors, we should be expected to be experts in our community and in kind of the development aspect of it as well. Taking steps to ensure privacy of consumers' personal information. Accurate dissemination of data, understanding that realtors may not have full control of all the data that's been disseminated, but to the extent that we can, that the data is accurate, that's going to be a tie-in to the MLSs. And proficiency in business and technology tools to better serve consumers. So we're looking at raising the bar, not just from a Code of Ethics standpoint, but just what we do for our clients. Some of the other details I won't go through here. The other thing I thought was interesting was that the NAR directors approved that every state and local association has to have an ombudsman service to its members, clients, and consumers on or before January 1st, 2016. And Wanda's smiling there because the reason I want to make that note is this came out of a couple of years discussion on a state level because CAR has had a statewide ombudsman program. They modeled theirs after scores that we implemented, and I can't remember now, 2006 or 7 here at SCORE. So we've had an ombudsman program that's been modeled by CAR, and now NAR is requiring that service to our members and to the community at large. So I thought that was kind of interesting. From a legislative standpoint, a lot of it we've already talked about, so I'm not going to repeat some of it. I did want to make a note when I think it was Mallory that was talking about, oh no, I'm sorry, it was Myron that was talking about the red alerts, and then Mallory also mentioned it, that you got last week. You do want to respond. I did, and within a day, I got an email back from Senator Boxer. The good news is she supports our position. So they do look at these when you contact them. The other thing I'll mention is how many of you, and don't raise your hand because I don't want to embarrass anybody, how many of you currently use drones for your marketing? Don't raise your hand, Carl. Keep joking. Okay, so you should know that currently it is a violation of FAA, the Federal Aviation Administration regulations, and you could receive fines and penalties. So make a note of that. Also know that NAR's position is there is context for realtors to be able to use drones for marketing. So they're NAR is taking a two-pronged attack on this. Education so that our members understand what the current regulations are, but at the same time, we are trying to work with regulators, FAA and any other regulators, to have our perspective that there are some valid situations in commercial, i.e. real estate marketing, that we may want to have, that makes sense to have drones. We do want to protect privacy issues and things like that. So that's kind of the NAR position. And then the last thing, just to wrap up, you've heard a lot in the news about student loans and the issues with student loans in terms of ability of students later on to buy real estate. We've had a lot of studies. There doesn't seem to be a connection, but at the same time, we are looking at supporting legislation and regulatory efforts to promote education and increase disclosure requirements and provide students with a better understanding of that. So with that, that is my report.
And you know what? I'm going to ask for one more round of applause for our CA and NAR directors. They spend a tremendous amount of time out of the office working on the behalf of the association. Because of the size and scope of our association, we have 3 NAR directors. We have 29 CAR directors, which Barbara was a regional chair, so she was responsible with herding all those folks throughout these 3 conferences a year. So they do a super, super job, and they're really dedicated. So big round. Okay, next we're going to bring up Myra from MLS Listing. She's the VP of Public Affairs, and she's going to give us a little bit of an update on what's going on with the new rollout of the new platform. So Myra, come on up. And then we're going to go and then we're going to wrap up with Carol.
Okay, all right. I'll be very quick.
Carol's our anchor. She's going to bring it home.
Well, good morning, everyone, and I'm motivated to be quick because the big C word is happening right now, a conversion, right? And the good news is we are in parallel systems for this newer matrix. So that means both are operating while everybody goes through the pain of getting the changes. The other good news is the motivation of the change is obviously to upgrade something that hasn't been upgraded in nearly a decade. So probably 10 years ago, you weren't using as much mobile technology as you are now. Your iPad, your smartphone, other things. So all of this will be enabled once these changes happen. What I want to say, though, is if you are having particular challenges, please make sure that I get your business card, and then I'll match somebody with you to walk you through whatever those issues are. I think at this point, that's probably the best way to handle it, because some people are having different challenges, some people are having none. And so, as I said, before I leave today, or Nick, you guys know Nick for sure, let us get your business card, and then we'll match you to someone who can help as you move over to what I call the newer matrix. So with that, I think that's probably the hot issue right now. Other than that, as you know, and I always say, we appreciate the fact that you trust us with your business, and we want to always earn that every day. So make sure that we're hearing from you. The department I head is the relationships department. So we really do want to hear the truth from you. Don't just sugarcoat things. That's not how I roll. Just tell me the truth of what you don't like and what you do like. And thank you so much for the minutes, and continue with a great meeting. Thanks a lot.
All right. So the person you all been waiting for, And she's certainly not going to sugarcoat anything. Ms. Carol Rodoni.
First, good morning and happy holidays to everybody. Okay, we're going to start. I want to talk a little bit about the national economy, then I want to talk about Silicon Valley. And I want to caveat that by first saying that we're as different as apples and oranges. So what you hear nationally, what you read nationally, has absolutely nothing to do with Silicon Valley. So, you know, the Fed said we were going to be at 3% GDP this year, but we're not going to make that. First quarter, we came in at minus 1.7%. The second quarter, we came in at 4.6%. The third quarter was 3.5%. This quarter will probably be 3%, but that doesn't get us to 3%. So I agree with the economist at NAR. We are going to be below that, probably at 2.5, 2.6. But you know what? As not as good as that is, we're still the best basically around the world. And it's about time that we're hearing that America is still the engine driving this train, because we're so tired of hearing crappy America, poor America. The dollar should not be the currency of choice. Oh my gosh, it's up now again about 20%. Everybody wants our 10-year bond, because even though it's only paying 2.3%, if you go to Germany, you get 1/4%, and you can get a Greek bond and they'll give you 6%, but of course they'll never pay you on the bond. So at the end of the day, thank God and thank God for that. Yay. Okay. Let me talk a little bit about what's happening out there. First of all, I want to talk about the stock market. Up 30% last year. Gold was down 24%. Stock market, I think, is going to be probably at 18,000 by the end of the year. September, October are always kind of sloppy months, so don't worry about it. And it's been very interesting this year, because last year it was the techs and energies and healthcare that drove the market. This year it's much more balanced. But here's what's really interesting when you talk about interest rates. 1.6% last May. Mr. Bernanke went down to Congress, said the economy was getting better, and oh my God, the whole place went to hell in a handbasket, and the rates jumped up to 3%. They slapped him, so he had to go down and say, well, it's not that good. I took another look. Then it went back down. We were at 2.6, 2.7, 2.8 for several months. How did we get down now to 2.3? Well, Mrs. Yellen isn't doing anything. We stopped buying mortgage-backed securities. That didn't do anything. She's great. She talks really easy and simply to people. She has said she's going to keep interest rates low for a considerable length of time. I think that's going to be till the third quarter of 2015. So I think you got that. I think the big thing that you have to understand is we have some industries that are very interest rate dependent and some that aren't. So if you're energy and tech and you basically are healthcare, you don't care about interest rates. But if you're housing, manufacturing, construction, and retail, you do. And those are the ones that have gone down the most and come back slower. So she's concerned about that. So even though they give you this magic 5.8 number for unemployment, which is a joke, and even though they tell you, well, we've hit that 2% inflation, which we have, it's not going to matter to her, because she's looking at basically those four industries and saying that's a lot of the economy, and I have to make sure that those are healthy and breathing and off of cardiac arrest before I do anything with interest rates. Now, why are interest rates important, guys? Because let's look at it this way. First of all, real estate has become a darling asset again. How do we know that? Let's follow the money of who's getting in the real estate business. This is your PhD. When I was getting one, my father told me, here's how you get one. When I went and asked him to help me, he said, grow up, get up, shut up, and go make a buck. That's your PhD, girl. Well, I'm going to give you one even shorter than that. Follow the money. Look who's getting into the real estate business today. You have, first of all, Mr. Warren Buffett, the second richest man in the world, who now has Berkshire Home Services. He owns Prudential, 34 companies across the United States. And of course, now he's come here and he's the owner of Intero. That's number one. You obviously have Mr. Murdoch now, who obviously wants everybody advertising in all his media. That's why, obviously, he bought Move.Inc. You've got Zillow that bought Trillia for $3 billion, and they took Zippo, and they took that basically Trillia away. They will absorb it. And I think what they want to do is not get all of you to put your faces up there on Zillow. They want to basically get control of listings. They don't want the basically litigation and dealing with all the crap of the clients. What they want is just the listing. Then they're going to bring it down and say to you, we'll give it to you, but you can pay us a referral fee. That's where I think they're going. We'll see if they can manage that. Then you have, obviously, basically, Coldwell Banker that bought Zip. They didn't buy Zip for Zip, because Zip never made a dime. They bought it because they wanted basically to get the technology, because they want to have more technology and they could build it. But if you buy it, you get it faster. Then you have one that's coming out of San Diego called Restoration Real Estate, and they're going to have this model. We do construction and we do real estate licensing, so we can do both. But the big one I want to talk about is Auction.com. And the reason why I want to talk about Auction.com is because Google is involved with that and just gave this company $60 million. This is a test, because that's petty change for Google. but they're going to try to see if we can do online real estate. You know that's where they're going, and that's exactly the model. Now, let me tell you how it works so you can talk to your clients about it. So you have a seller, and that seller says to you, well, you want me to pay me 5 or 6%, and you want that out of me. I can go on basically auction.com, put up my property, and you know their whole basically sell is I don't have to pay a commission or fee as a seller. So how do you basically combat that? Well, the first thing you need to say to them is, number one, basically, you probably the most expensive thing in your portfolio, which is your home. And in Northern California, where we're sitting, let's talk about the price of homes. It says now in the 7 counties that we're up to almost 700,000. We were down at 290 at the height of this recession. In many areas, you're over $1 million, and you know that. Now, see, auction.com is in 42 states. They have 96,000 listings already. Most of those are from banks and foreclosures and short sales because they don't have to pay basically the commission. But now what they want, guys, is basically quantity, not quality. They don't want to deal with the $700,000 house out here with all our rules, regulations, all the litigious. They want to deal with properties from 87,000 to 200,000, which is the heartland of America because it's quick, it's easy, get in, get out, very, very fast. So at the end of the day, you can say to somebody, this is great. So now you're taking your $700,000 property and you're giving it to somebody that's a telemarketer making $8 to $10 an hour that's sitting in Fargo, North Dakota or India, even if they speak good English. And basically they know nothing about Northern California, our rules, our regulations, or anything that we do out here. All they're going to do is take your property and they're going to send you paperwork. You are going to fill out every disclosure, which you don't know how to fill out. You're going to be holding these open houses, and I hope you don't talk about real estate because it's against the law to do that unless you have a license. You're going to have to do all the marketing. Oh, and when you're getting sued, you'll be sitting there representing yourself, so good luck. That's a really good thing to do. So now you think you save 6%. It's going to cost you 20% at the end of the day when you have to write the big check. This is a very good thing for you to do. Oh, and by the way, if the buyer has to pay the fee, don't you think they're going to consider that when they make their offer to you and they're going to discount at 6%? So, Mr. Seller, you have done a really good thing. You have proven to us that you are a complete and total stupid idiot. Okay, now, let's talk about the buyer that comes in. The buyer now comes in and they have to bring an agent. That's the key. That agent basically gets 1%. So now what have you got? An $8 to $10 an hour telemarketer on the sell side and a 1% agent on the buy side. So you have nobody representing you in real estate at all. Now, look, I'm not against anybody who makes $8 to $10 an hour. I schlepped hamburgers when I started. I get that. But at the end of the day, 1%. So you know what that agent is. They're working out of their car, and then at night they're a porno dancer or they're walking the streets and trying to make a living. You know that, and I know that. So at the end of the day, you have nothing. Oh, they think 1%. This is wonderful. Except when you buy the property, you have to pay to auction.com a 5% buy fee on exactly the price of the property. So now there's the 6%. Oh, and by the way, they have a partnership with a company called NationStar, which is a mortgage company, and they can't demand that you use that, but they make you get a quote to make sure that you're qualified. So you're going to see that coming, and I'll tell you why. They're doing some advertising in the Wall Street Journal, and let me tell you what their mantra is. The old way of doing real estate is going, gone. There's a new way out there, and it's coming. Faster, more transparent, less costly, quicker, easier, happy bidding. Finally, a new way to do real estate is coming. Now, you guys will be able to defend that because guess what? You and I both know it's still local. You still need a relationship. Real estate is basically a complicated business. People are doing all kinds of things now. They're putting them in LLCs and trusts and family partnerships. How do you hold title? How do you not? Who's going to be first? Who's going to be second? All these prenups everybody's signing. How do we make sure we're protecting all this stuff? It is a very valuable asset, but very desirable because look who I've told you is in it. Warren Buffett, Mr. Murdoch. You now have Goldman Sachs with $1 billion fund in real estate owning foreclosures across the United States. You now have basically auction.com. You have basically everybody and anybody that wants to get in the real estate business. Why? Because it proves that you can get wealth. Let's go back for a minute to interest rates and why I think it's become such a darling asset. All the people on Wall Street are investing in it, partly because of content like Mr. Murdoch, but because they understand free money and they understand that you can make money in the real estate business. So if you're a buyer, what do you say to your buyers? They need to get in now, guys, before interest rates go up, because they actually have free money. Where it's zero, how much lower can you go than that? So when they say, I think rates are going down, just slap these people, okay? And tell them what, zero is as low as you can go on our numerical scale. And now we have inflation at 2%, so we're really at minus 2%. I mean, how much lower can the world go? But here's the deal. You bought a house in 2002, you paid $600,000, interest rates were 7%, you took out a 30-year loan, 25% down, you didn't get one of those crazy ones. Your payment to the bank was about $4,000 a month. When you paid the bank, here's what happened. 9% of it went to pay down that $600,000 loan, and all the rest went to interest. You fast forward to today, same house, same loan, same everything, except now you're only paying 4%. So your payment is $1,000 less every month. And the second thing is, when you make that payment to the bank, 27% goes to pay down the loan, and just the balance goes to interest. So you're gaining wealth quicker because you're paying less in interest than if you basically had to pay 7%. The second thing is now, because of Northern California, they're getting a twofer because they're also getting appreciation, 24% last year. Basically, we will go up this year too, single to double digit, depending on price point, location, zip code, etc. So you need to talk to people not only about appreciation, but we need to start to talk to these buyers about interest rate and getting in before they tick up, because they will, probably starting in 2015. Now, I want to talk about Silicon Valley for a minute because I think it's undergoing a revolution. We are not in a recession here, and a revolution to me is a frenetic event that happens like every 50 years that changes the way people work and the way they eat and the way they communicate and behave and etc. And we are definitely there. And I get a call from the Wall Street Journal, and you know, they're a client of mine the other day, and this idiot, this woman, calls me up, and what she says to me is, you know, you all out there, affordability, nobody can afford those homes, there's going to be another bubble, look at all these stocks, they're all overpriced, boy, I need somebody to verify it, and they told me to call you because you represent us out here on the West Coast. Well, since they sent me a check, I didn't want to say she was a complete and total idiot, but I said to myself, I'll tell her, let me take the other side. So I said to her, okay, let me just give you a week in the life of Silicon Valley. When 2000, we did have a bubble there because you only had 3 or 4 big companies. You had IBM, you had Hewlett-Packard, you had Oracle there, you had Apple, you had a couple of the biggies. And all these baby companies running with money in the door, going out as fast as it could. They didn't know anything. Nobody liked the internet. Back in 2000, you didn't like the internet. You know you didn't. You all had cell phones, but they were trying to tell you you're going to computers and all this stuff you put in your ears and you hang around with. But nobody wanted to do that. So we fast forward, and we've done 50 years in 14 years now. And now you know, you not only love these instruments, you are addicted to them, guys. And you would all go into cardiac arrest if you didn't have them. And every one of you, when you leave here, the broadband up there is going to go crazy because every one of you is getting on those appliances to find out what you missed while you were sitting in here, right? So at the end of the day, that's number one. Number two is, if you added up the big companies now, look who you've got. All I mentioned, plus now you've got Facebook and Yahoo and Google and Twitter and LinkedIn and Salesforce.com and Oracle and et cetera, et cetera. And, you know, if you add up all the money they've got, it's about $2 trillion sitting there. And if they brought what they had abroad over here, it'd be another 7 or 8. So they're as big as a country. So she says to me, yes, but she said, let me give you this example. This Facebook, she said, that bought this WhatsApp application, and you know they paid $19 billion. And I corrected her. I said, you're wrong, because by the time the deal closed, Facebook stock had gone up, and they actually paid $22 billion. Well, there's only 55 people there, and what the hell, and you know, that's all wrong. I said, look, Mr. Zuckerberg is the 14th richest man in the world. Maybe he knows something you don't, because unless you're 13, you're an idiot. Okay? So at the end of the day, I said to her, look, Google and Facebook are competitors. They each have 1.5 billion users every single month, all right? But Google's been here longer, so they have a national and international presence. Facebook, very big nationally, not big internationally. However, WhatsApp, with this little 55 people that work there, they have 500 million subscribers, growing at 40% a month, and 90% of their business is international. It's that 99-cent thing where you send a video, a text, or message to your mother in Russia. Hi, I'm going to call you on Sunday, be by the phone, and then it gets deleted. Oh, and by the way, you stupid person at the Wall Street Journal, guess what? On that 99 cents, they make 43 cents profit. And you may think that's nothing, because what the hell is 43 cents? But when you do 50 billion of those every month, believe me, it adds up. That's the day. And then, of course, they turn around 2 days later and they buy Oculus, which is the new way to do video teleconferencing now. So you don't have to be in front of a screen. You're going to wear a helmet with the goggles and basically the earphones. So now you can be any place, in the bathtub having sex, doing anything 24/7. It doesn't matter because nobody will see anything but the helmet that you have on. Then you have Apple that bought Beats, right? You had Apple that bought Beats, and you have everybody out there buying everything. But the best one that's coming is all the international players that are here. Up on Redwood City 101, you see SoftBank, the big sign up there now. That's Mr. Sun, the richest man in Japan, who now owns 70% of Sprint, and he owns 30% of a company you've all heard about called Alibaba. Now, Yahoo, 22.4% of Alibaba, had to give up 10% of it the day it went public. They are now sitting with $7 billion in cash. Now, let me talk for a minute about Alibaba, because, see, that affects your real estate, guys. So in the next few months, you have $7 billion, of which half is going to shareholders out here buying that really expensive, crappy real estate that we have at $1 million or better. Now, Alibaba, a 10-year-old company started by a Chinese teacher. His name was Mr. Ma. And in order to basically grow his company over the last 10 years, he had to give a lot of it away. So he only owns 8% of it, and it still made him the richest man in China. That company is now valued at almost $290 billion. It is the most valuable company on the New York Stock Exchange. Now, how did he get here? Which he does have a place in Silicon Valley, because he obviously wants America. But he came to the New York Stock Exchange because in Singapore and Hong Kong, you can only have one type of share of stock, and that's one share, one vote. But in New York, you can have two different kinds. You can have one share, one vote, and then preferred shareholders that have one share but two votes. And he needed that in order to keep control of his company. So he comes out and they do it right. They go out on the road show. They're going to value it at $60 to $66. It goes to $80, $88. It starts to open. The guy from Goldman Sachs with the gray hair, thank God, basically says, no, I can't open it. I don't have enough sellers for enough buyers. In the first 10 minutes, they did 100 million shares of that stock. It closed basically at about 99. It's now at 115. Now, Mr. Alibaba wants to control America. Let me tell you what he controls already. 80% of all the e-commerce in China. He's a $90 billion company. He basically is growing revenue at 46% and his net operating profit at 63%. Now, he needs America because he says he wants to be as big as Walmart, which is $467 billion. In order to do that, guys, he's going to have to buy something. He can build it. He can do anything he wants. He's sitting with $30 billion in cash, but he's got to get there faster, quicker, and get there first. So he's going to buy something. I'm going to just tell you what I think. Think about Yahoo as being basically a pretender to be bought. I think Microsoft will come back. I think basically Alibaba will come in. I think the gentleman that owns basically SoftBank will come in. And I'll bet you within the next 18 months, Yahoo is going to get bought. So buy Yahoo. I don't think it's a bad thing to buy. I've also been buying some Apple because I think Apple, not because of Apple, because Carl Icahn is a corporate raider, $5 billion worth of Apple stock. And basically, he wants it at $200 a share. Apple Pay, which is going to take on the credit and debit world, that's basically going to change the world. And I know you hate all these wearables that they talk about, but believe me, the same thing about why you hated all these other things. You're going to be wearing rings and watches and necklaces and earrings and fabric, and you're going to be wearing shoes, and they're going to tell you, get up, no, get down, you're eating too much, stop eating, you didn't eat enough, you're happy today, be nice to your husband, go home, you insulted him, he's crying, stop it, this, that, and whatever. And the best thing it's going to do is a half hour before you die, it's going to tell you, you're going to know, you're going. So you can move to the side of the road. And when you move to the side of the road, you can call up everybody you loved and say, I love you, but I'm leaving. But the best thing is you can call up everybody you've hated all your life, and you can say to them, I never liked you, I don't like you, and I hope to God that I never have to talk to you or see you again, and I want to take this opportunity to do that. Now, before I get into real estate, I want to tell you a cute story about Alibaba. I had an opportunity 7 or 8 years ago when nobody knew the name of this company through my son, who's a hedge fund guy and does work for Goldman Sachs and does all the Far East. He comes home one day and he says, Mom, we've got to buy for the family a company called Alibaba. I said to him, why would I buy a stupid company named Alibaba? What is that? He says, it's a Chinese online company. I said, and he said, I've looked at all the numbers. I said, William, you know what? I sent you to Harvard, and I don't know why. You know that all the numbers in Chinese companies don't tell you the truth. I mean, that's just the way they do business. It's not I'm not giving you a commentation whether it's good or bad. It's the way their culture does business. So anything you see, cut it down by 90%. No, Mom, we got to buy this. And so he gives me this astronomical number. I said, are you out of your mind? I'm not buying that much of that. So he convinced me to buy 20,000 shares at $6 a share. Are you listening to me? Now you all think I'm standing up here loaded. Wait, this is a sad story. Okay. Every year at the end of the year, the accountant and the tax guy and the lawyer sit down with me, and I love it now, because what they said to me this year was, Carol, a person at your point in life, which means you're an old bat, okay, and you're going to die a lot quicker than you're going to live longer. You have to start to think about doing some estate planning, and we have to start giving some money away. So your three choices are the government, your children, or grandchildren, and I really had to think about all those three. I don't want to give it to the government. The children, the grandchildren are little, so I don't know what they're going to turn out to be. So I decided, well, I'd give it to the children. So I gave each of my children 10,000 shares of Alibaba stock at $6, which is what they picked, the professionals, because it was the lowest cost, will appreciate. They said, oh, it'll go to 2025, and that's against your lifetime exemption, so we want a low cost basis. Well, I'm driving around in my car listening to this stupid company come public, and I'm listening to $90, $92, $98 a share, and I get a call from my two children thanking me for making them instant millionaires. Do you love that? The next call I get is from the accountant, who says to me, isn't this wonderful? We did exactly what we wanted. I said, what is it you think you did for me today? Oh, I saved you all that tax money. I said, that's because you think I was going to sell it, or you think that basically I was going to die and they were going to tax it. What if I had borrowed against it, gotten a toy boy, and gone around the world? I would So next time when I have a stock I don't understand, I'm not giving it away. That's all I can tell you. Okay, let me talk a little bit about the real estate business. You know, last year you guys had what? You know, frenetic market, low inventory, high demand, low interest rates, ready, willing, and able buyers. Everybody was willing to write checks, multiple offers. We were scrambling all over. It was the middle high end that was really driving the market. So what's happened this year, guys? This market has changed a bit, okay? It really has. But let's not use the word cool down, please. Let's say that it's balanced out, and I would call it a sweet market. And a sweet market is one where you basically can work more with buyers and sellers and get some kind of a basically fair deal that's working. You're still going to have low inventory even though it's growing, because you're not going to get a glut, I can tell you that. You're still going to have interest rates low for probably another 9, 10, 11 months. You're still going to have basically more demand and supply, because even though everybody's redeveloping every city and town and we're growing and building new things, we still aren't going to be caught up, and we're still not going to have enough. Because let me give you these projections. By 2040, it's projected we will have 2.1 million more people in the state of California, and especially in Northern California alone, and that basically that will create 1.1 million more jobs. So now what's happening? Well, I think let's talk first about sellers. Sellers always get greedy in a market that went up 24% last year. So I think the first thing you want to say to people is you are not there to list their property. You are there to sell their property. There's a big difference between listing and selling something, and they need to get into the mind of the buyer, because that's who's going to buy the property. Let me tell you something else that these sellers need to understand. I don't even know what list price means anymore, okay? Because you could take me out today. Is it overlisted, underlisted, at market? Why was it listed like that? Has it been in the discount business? They don't care, these millennials, the 25 to 49-year-olds. Their idea of value is, if I want it and I like it, I'll buy it. If it's the zip code, the location, and the lifestyle that I want, then I'm willing to pay extra for it. And if it's not, I don't care if you're showing me the Taj Mahal, I don't want it. So I think the market and sellers need to understand this when you talk to them is, first, ask them if you can talk to them about what we as real estate professionals are seeing in the industry, then what's happening in their neighborhood, what's happening in their house, the competition, and then talk to them about the profile of the buyer, because that's who's the person that eventually has to come in and make the deal. And today that profile is very different, because here's what you've got. You've got what I call worker bees who have to get into the entry market, because that's the only place they can go. So you may want to live in Palo Alto, but you got to go to East Palo Alto, which is extremely hot right now, because it's the only place you can afford to go. So you're buying location, but it's the zip code you can afford. Oh, gee, I can't afford to live over here. Then you're going to have to go to Benicia. You're going to have to go to Union City or Richmond. You're going to have to go to Brentwood, because over there you'll get a nice 3-bedroom, 2-bath house. Condominiums are going to be the asset of choice, guys, for people that are in the entry level, because that's where they have to start. And condominiums went up 32% last year versus houses that only went up 9%. And we're going to get themed condominiums. So they're going to put, now this is amazing, next to shopping malls, we're going to take away the parking because it's too expensive to be flat, put it underground, and build condominiums for the elderly next to shopping malls. Then you're going to have those for people with families and babies, so they'll have the daycares and the kinder cares and all the art classes and arts and crafts. And then you're going to have the ones for these millennials, the 25 to 45. They want sports bars and wine cellars and libraries and sports things and all that kind of stuff that they like. So basically, that's the way the world is divided now. You have the entry market and then these 25 to 45-year-olds. Now, a lot of you here are that age, so I'm not insulting you. And at my age, I don't care if I do. So at the end of the day, let me tell you what it is. It's all about you. That's what it is. It's about what I want, how I want it, when I want it, if I want it, if I like you, if I don't like you. You're only as good as your last deal. Do you understand how I live? Because I have 4 instruments here. I have a BlackBerry, 2 basically iPhones. I have an iPad. I have the iTunes thing. And if you can't adjust to that and you can't text me and you can't communicate like that, you're out because then I don't like you. Oh, by the way, I'm going to fire you. You know why? Because last night I was up because you don't understand how I do business because I'm doing business in China and India. And I was up at 3 o'clock in the morning and I was on your wonderful MLS while I was talking to India. And a house came on that I see some agent was up at 3 o'clock in the morning because she put it up there. You didn't. And you're saying to me, but I would never think to call you at 3 o'clock in the morning. Well, you're fired because you wouldn't think that because I'm up. And that person knows. And now I called that agent, hired her, and she told me she already has 2 offers coming in. So now I'm going to be in a competitive situation, and that was all your fault. That's exactly how they are. They love their basically animals more than their children. When they have children, their children have to be perfect. You know that. They exhaust these kids. They send them to school, and then it's ballet and gym, and it's counseling, and it's orthodontics, and it's this, that, and whatever. Do you know we spent basically $55 billion on animals last year, and this last Halloween, $30 million in Halloween costumes, and 68% of all Americans have pets? And do you know there is a company called American Standard Building that tells you the hottest thing for these millennials now when they buy anything is a pet suite, which is a 170 square foot environment for dogs and cats with everything built for them. It has bunk beds for sleepovers. It has automatic feeders. It has all kinds of things. It has a leash with a run that basically has French doors, a flat screen TV for their television station because they don't like human television. It makes them nervous. And you think I'm kidding, but that's it. They're very much into themselves, and everything is about location, lifestyle, and zip code, and they love funky. Anything funky is what they like. So what are the areas that you know that they like? Any new city that's being redeveloped. So you start up here and you know San Jose and obviously Santana Row, and you see what's happening in San Carlos and Redwood City, and you see what's happening in areas like Burlingame, and they love Healdsburg up in the wine country because it's funky, not Sonoma and Napa because they love it there because you can be in boots and everything is sand and sawdust. And what have you got there? You got all the drug addicts, you got people with tattoos, the motorcycle people, people with babies, you got a lean-to next to a mansion, you got the ranches, etc. They love it over there. They love the intermission in San Francisco, which is Spanish Harlem, right? They don't want to go live in Pacific Heights, even if they can afford it. The Zuckerbergs bought a house in Liberty Park and spent $9 million, not in basically Pacific Heights, in Liberty Park, then brought it to the ground, and they've spent 13 permits redoing it, raised the value of real estate there 20% because now every techie wants to live there. So you've got these entry people who are dependent upon appraisals and getting a loan, and who are they fighting with? They're fighting with basically investors, foreign buyers, and all these big REITs. Then you have these millennials who have more money than God, and they're out there just saying to you, I can write the check, but you understand what I want, how I want it, if I want it, and you better go out there and get it, because they're all about competition and winning. The next thing you need to talk to sellers about, let's talk about pricing. First of all, I like to give people options, because if you box them in with just one price, you're going to lose. The first question is you tell them the first point I'm going to give you is where you significantly do not want to be, and that is overpriced, and let me tell you why. Especially in the $800,000 to $2 million market, because that's where these millennials are, and they do not buy secondhand rose houses. They want a house that when they buy it, they can say to their friends, I got this house and 12 other people wanted it. This is a winner. See, a house that has to be reduced in price because it was overpriced from the market has to be a loser. In their mind, it's not the competitive win that they want. You make a big mistake, Mr. Seller, if you price your property there. You're trying to push appreciation. You can't. They can't. That's number one. You can be safe. That's another S, and that's to be at market. As long as what it takes, which is about 26 to 40 days, to sell the property, the market stays the same. Or you can be significantly aggressive and be 1 to 3% below the market. Now you can maybe push appreciation. And I know what they're going to say. Well, I did that, and I wanted 12 offers, and I only got one. Look, you're lucky you got one. It's all cash, 10-day close, no contingency. Shut up and take it because the market moved. Don't you understand that? Or 3% below, you probably would have had if your home was in decent condition in a good location, 12 buyers. So shut up and take it. Run with the money, okay? So I think that's how you have to talk to sellers. Now, how do you have it? I don't care. At my age, you get away with a lot, so it's easy. See, I just don't care anymore. All right, now buyers. Look, buyers need to understand what they can afford. Okay, that's number one, and where you therefore can take them. Because if it's 800,000 and that's what they've got, but it's a multi-offer market, you can't take them there, guys. What they need to understand is, look, it's not what you buy now. It's getting in and what you can buy, because real estate is like laddering with you do bonds, and you need to start maybe not at the top of the market and work your way down to a trailer park. Better you should start with a trailer park and work your way up. So they need to understand what they can afford. Then they need to understand we have different kinds of markets. This one is a negotiating market, so we can go in with terms and conditions. This one is a competitive market, which means you got to go to win. That's it. You get one shot. You got to hit the ball out of the ballpark, and that's it. Well, we don't want to do that, and I don't want to get into multiple offers. Perfect, and I can appreciate that, and I understand that, but we can't look here. Because, see, here, that's what's happening. And the problem that you have is you're competing against people just like you. See, years ago, it was a doctor, it was a lawyer, it was somebody who was a CEO. Now you've got 9 tech people and 9 finance people who all think alike. They're all competitive. They all want to win. And then it's not just about the house. The minute they find out that a Google guy is against a Yahoo guy is against a LinkedIn guy, oh, my God. Now it's about I got to win because I'm Google. I got to win because I'm Yahoo. Now the house is just the prize at the end of the program. That's it. So now the competition has taken on a whole new veneer here. We're not competing intelligently. We're just competing to write the biggest check because I need to go back to my company and say, you know those 2 people from Yahoo? We got it at Google. Yay. It works. So that's what you're dealing with now. Now add to that you're still going to have 22% all cash because they all have cash, and you're still probably going to have 25% foreign buyers. Now, where are they coming from? Well, next year, China will be the biggest group. After that comes Canada, then Mexico, then Japan, and then Russia, and then a splattering of everybody else. Now, why are they coming here? Because they want to get their money out of the countries where they are. In Mexico and basically China, you can't even own the land there. You just own what's on top of it, and they're getting tougher in China, not looser, so you know they want to get their money out. In all these places, they want to come, and they're going to buy everything. The other thing you need to understand is what you define as asset, this darling asset called real estate now, it's not just going to be residential, single family, 1 to 4s. These people buy that, then they buy the vacation homes, then they're going to get in the investment business. What's the investment business? It's going to be apartment houses, storage facilities, assisted living facilities, hospitality centers, office space. It's going to be trailer parks, which is one of the best return on investments. You know, in Malibu, California, there is a group that owns a trailer park called the Pacific Grove, and they're coming up here. Any place where there's waters and mountains. The average trailer there is $2.3 million, and they just sold one for $3.7. And if you'd like to go buy one today, one of your neighbors can be Matthew McConaughey, the gentleman that just won the Oscar and is Interstellar. So you need to think differently because these people, they have stock already, most of them. They're out of the financial world, so statistics, the numbers, doing the numbers is more important than ever. And they're going to want to get into the real estate business because they have enough stock and they want to get into the real estate business. So I think you have a wonderful opportunity there because I think real estate is the darling asset out there. All right, I've talked a long time and I know you've been here a long time, so I'll close with kind of a cute story. I have these 4 adorable grandchildren, you know. They're now 8, 7, one is 6, and one is 4. And the 4-year-old is this little tiny redhead. Never fool around with a redhead. I can tell you that. Don't do it. She's persistent. She's impatient. She's controlling. She's dominating. She talks to herself if you won't talk to her. She stands there like this if she can't get her way. And the bad thing is everybody says she's just like me. So we're out and we're at the store. And, you know, we're in the store. And I'm trying to teach you 2 things. The first thing is her name is Jameson. She was named after the liquor store kid. And I tried to teach her, you cannot walk into a store, just take what you want and walk out. Because when you're with me, I will get arrested, not you, because you're 4 and I'm a lot older than 4. So they will arrest me. So we have to go to the cash register and pay. And I'm trying to show her, you know, you have all these dollar bills in front of you, but one is a 1, one is a 5, one is a 10. Here's all this change, but it means different. So she always asks, Nana, can I have a toy? And sometimes yes, sometimes no. So that day I said yes, and she went and got a little bottle of bubbles, you know, those things you blow through, and they bubbles $2.99, I don't know what it was. So we're going up to the cash register, and I'm trying to tell her, okay, Jameson, here's some Nana's dollars. Pick out what you think we need, and here's some change, and let's figure it out. And as we're going up there, the lady at the cash register looks down and says to Jameson, "Aren't you lucky your Nana is trying to teach you about money?" And she looks up at this woman and she says to her, "You know, that is my Nana. And you know what? She has big bucks." Oh my God, I have never been so humiliated. So we get in the car and I say to her, "Jameson, do you know what big bucks are?" She said, "No." I said, "Where did you hear that?" She said, "Well, my mommy, that's my daughter, was telling my daddy, Nana has big bucks." So now I know where it came from. Kids are wonderful at that age. They tell you everything. I know this lady who's sleeping on the couch. It's great. So I leave her off and I kiss her and I move to the side of the road and I call my daughter. And I say, "Hi, it's Big Bucks calling." Dead silence on the phone, and my daughter, the Oxford graduate, right, is stuttering, going, "Well, Mom, you don't understand." I said, "Jennifer, stop already, because you're going to get in worse trouble by explaining this. And let me tell you what your problem is. It isn't whether I have big bucks, small bucks, or no bucks. Your problem is, now that you've labeled me that, you're probably not getting any of the bucks."
The one and only Carol Rodoni. All right, so this is our last general membership meeting of the year here. So I'm going to ask, can I get my committee chairs to stand up real quick? Committee chairs. Rick, I know you're there. Trish, Mike. Perfect, Jim. I really want to thank all you guys at the committees. They're doing a tremendous amount of work. They're the ones that are in charge of executing our strategic plan. They do all the day-to-day operations. We are a bottom-up organization, and it all starts with these committees. If you want to make your profession better, if you want to have an impact on this association, please join one of these committees, and thank you all for the commitment this year. And then lastly, if I can have my board of directors stand up here. Board, don't be shy. Come on, Kevin. And our president is on a conference call right now. As you know, he has some major deals going on, so he would have liked to do this himself, but he really wants to extend his thanks, and I want to extend to my thanks. The board is where the buck stops. This is where policy is made. This is where all these great ideas percolate up from these committees, and the board sets policy to keep us running straight, and I really appreciate your commitment, so thank you all. And that concludes our meeting. Thank you very much. That was fabulous.